Oh hey oh nice shoes. Shoes are nice. Do you know what else is nice? Scratches. I bounce off your shoe lol. Yes. Wafshi gable geekraf. Okay, you can continue the video now.
Howdy everyone, it's me Zombie and welcome back to my happy little cosplay channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made these Samus shoes because I'm making a full set of Samus armor because I love her and I want to be her. So I can't be a bounty hunter in outer space, but I can at least dress like one. These are actually boot covers, which is great if you want to reuse the same shoes over and over again for your cosplay. I used to be the kind of person that would buy like the same cheap $20 Target shoes every time I made a cosplay, and I just glued armor straight onto it, which was unsurprisingly very expensive, and also those shoes were never that comfortable. So instead I invested in a pair of nicer shoes, and I just reuse the same pair of shoes for every cosplay. I just make boot covers now. It has been life-changing. Mwah! Highly suggest it. 10 out of 10. I was really intimidated when I first started making boot covers because shoes are kind of a weird shape, and for me it was kind of weird to figure out actually how to make this weird shaped thing that will just go over your shoe magically, but it's actually a lot easier than you'd think. So if you're interested in making your own armored boot covers, or if you just want to see how I made these Samus shoes, then keep on watching. To the crafting table. I like using these shoes by Skechers for my boot cover designs, but you can use whatever shoes you fancy. To start making my pattern, I'm wrapping my shoes in aluminum foil. I like using aluminum foil to wrap my shoes because it's stiff yet moldable, and I've found, especially for making shoes, it works a lot better than plastic wrap because plastic wrap just sticks to itself like crazy. It's just a personal preference. Once my boot is covered with aluminum foil, I'm covering it with strips of duct tape. Once the shoe is taped, I can draw the seams for my boot cover pattern. I usually draw a seam down the front of my boot, on the back, and then another seam under the boot around the sole. But feel free to experiment with different seams to see what works best for you and your design. For me, I choose not to include the heel in my patterns, but you can definitely cover the heel if your design calls for it. It's just a little bit more difficult to pattern. Now that I'm done with the seams, I'm cutting along the seams to free my boot from its duct tape cocoon. And ta-da! Here are the pattern pieces. For the fabric part on the boot cover, I'm choosing this black knit stretch fabric. Stretch fabric is your best friend when it comes to making boot covers because it's durable and it will stretch nicely around your shoe. I'm using a marker to trace my patterns, and then using some shears to cut everything out. I like using these clips to clamp the edges before sewing, but you can also use pins. I just personally hate being pricked. Now to sew it together. I'm using my sewing machine on a stretch fabric setting to sew all the seams together. Now I can put the base of the boot cover on my shoe. Sometimes at this point you'll need to take in some of your edges with your sewing machine just to help it fit a little better, and that's totally normal. In fact, it's also totally normal to goof up your entire design, because that's what I did the first try. I made all the armor for the dang boot cover and ended up not liking the final product. So I tore it off and I redid everything. Sometimes that's just how it is. But before I start the new armor, I can still show you how I installed the zippers in the back of the boot covers. Installing a zipper is optional, but it can make it a lot easier to put your boot cover on. I measured the top of the two industrial zippers to the length of the back of my boots. Then I marked how tall they needed to be. Then I sewed a zigzag stitch on the place where I marked on the zipper. This is so when I cut it to size, the zipper wouldn't totally fall apart. To apply the zipper to the back of the boot, you can choose whether to sew them in or glue them in. Since my design is going to be covered with armor anyway, I decided to glue them in place with hot glue. To reinforce the zipper, I added some webbing to the inside of the boot cover where the zipper meets the fabric. That makes it really sturdy. And now I can enjoy my zipper. Ah, zipper. Oh wait, where was I? Oh yeah, I had to tear off all the armor work I did and do it again. But at least I have a zipper. Okay, let's make some armor for these bad boys. You can use the same pattern you made for your fabric boot cover to also make your boot armor. Or you can use the aluminum foil and duct tape method again to create new patterns. I'm tracing my boot pattern onto some 2mm foam by Lumen's Workshop. After cutting out the pieces, I'm gluing them together using barge. I'm using my rotary tool from Fordham Electric to smooth down the seams. Now I'm placing the armor piece over the shoe and using a heat gun to shape it into a shoe shape.
Like a cowboy boot.
I'm continuing this process with other parts of the shoes as well. For the detail on the front of the shoe, which kind of looks like a giant shoe tongue, I'm sketching the piece onto printer paper. Now I can transfer it onto 5mm foam from Lumen's Workshop, smooth the edges, glue it together with barge, and glue it onto the main part of the boot. To glue it on, I'm just using super glue and hot glue to reinforce everything. The final piece that goes on top of the boot is pretty much just a beveled rectangle. For the sole pieces, I use these awesome half dowels by Lumen's Workshop. I was even able to reuse some of these half dowels from my failed boots I made earlier. Yay, recycling! You can see that I also added a piece of the foam to the bottom of the boot cover too. This helps with grip while you're walking around, because nobody wants to slip in a big suit of armor. That's just no fun. And with that, my boots are constructed. I'm using Plasti-Dip spray to prime my boots before painting them. I'm using Rust-Oleum metallic spray paint in Champagne Mist for the base coat. I'm applying this paint in several light layers before moving on. It's time to bust out the airbrush. Airbrushes can be fiddly as heck, and I have screamed at my airbrush more times than I can count. But with practice and patience, they're amazing tools. To airbrush my boots, I'm using a mixture of brilliant gold, bronze, and polished gold Vallejo acrylics in several layers. I usually use approximately 1/4 parts of acrylic paint to every 3/4 parts of airbrush thinner in my airbrush. But this varies depending on what color I'm using, and I usually just eyeball it and troubleshoot as I go. If you don't have an airbrush and still like the idea of a gradient effect, try using sponges and experimenting with mixing brushes. They work pretty great too. For the parts on the boot that need to be black, I'm just using acrylic paint and a brush. And while I'm painting these black bits, I would like to thank my patrons. Your support makes videos and costume projects like this possible. When you join me on Patreon, you get access to all my photos and projects early, get to see exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, and access to my Discord community. So thank you for your support. As a final touch, I'm going in with an acrylic paint wash and a small brush to weather some of the creases on the shoes. For my wash, I'm using brown acrylic, black acrylic, and some water. And now that my boots are dry, I can take them on a test run. It was more like a test walk, but I tested them, and they worked, and they were comfy. Yay! I'm happy I decided to remake them because I think they look way better than my first attempt. Sometimes you just gotta remake stuff. I feel like that's cosplay. That happens sometimes. But either way, I hope you enjoyed watching me make these Samus boots, and I hope you can use some of these tips to make something cool of your own. The makers of the week include Bad Luck Cosplay, who made this awesome Link cosplay from Breath of the Wild. I love the spear you made, and the photo shoot was so cool. You guys really gotta check it out. This Star-Lord cosplay by Capetillo Jose de Jesus is so cool, you guys. He made all of it from head to toe, and he has an infinity gauntlet, so be afraid. Jolly Salmon made this Miss Fortune cosplay. She looks just like the character. It's so neat. I really love how you did the wig. I love the sewing. I love all the accessories. You look exquisite. Thank you so much for showing me your hard work. I love seeing y'all's cosplay. If you're making a cosplay, whether it's in progress or done, or if you're just working on something you really love, even if it's not cosplay, I would love to see it. Seeing what you guys make makes my day, so thank you in advance for showing me all your hard work. If you liked the video, consider hitting that subscribe button because I would love to see you back. Until next time, thanks again and bye everyone.